you don't have to be perfect to be successful. And sometimes we get tied up with the perfection within our business and within our relationships, but it really is forward movement. It's forward action. And even if some days it's harder than others and we struggle with whatever it is that we struggle with, it's okay. Tomorrow's a brand new day. And it's really going back to honestly why you got into business. I thought about this morning is that if your why is so strong, whether it is to serve your clients, whether it is to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves, I mean, whatever reason it is that you're in business and doing what you're doing, as long as you're making those efforts on a daily basis and intentional efforts and actions and giving yourself grace when you fall short, you're going to get there. You're going to get there.
Welcome to the Throne of Wealth, the podcast that empowers you to reign over your financial future. Each episode brings you tax strategies, wealth building insights, and stories from inspiring entrepreneurs. Each episode brings you tax strategies, wealth building insights, and stories from inspiring entrepreneurs. The Throne of Wealth is brought to you by King of Kings Accounting Firm, where financial challenges become opportunities for growth. Let's get into it.
Hi. Thank you again. Welcome to another episode. And today we have Becky with us. She'll be speaking about from the power of how do you overcome subpoenas and position yourself to be a business owner and entrepreneur in the workplace and how we can make a difference on a day-to-day every single day, right? For all of the entrepreneurs out there and business owners, this is for you. Welcome, Becky.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. I love doing these things. So thank you so much for the invitation. Love to be here.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We were talking a little bit about your story, off camera, and it is very impressive that how you went through this process and this process shaped you. But not only going through that process, as a young lady, as a young girl, you were mentioning that your father was an accounting professor, and that's where you got the entrepreneurial mindset and that drive, that go getter, and seek for a better future every day. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and, how you go through this process, overcome, and where you are now?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question because I love that question when I start my podcast as well, because I love to hear the backstory of why people do what they do and why they're passionate. So I grew up in a family, there was 5 of us. I was the 4th. I came out of the womb with so much energy. I don't think they knew what to do with, but I was very, very close to my dad. And he was somebody at a very young age wanted to start a summer camp for kids. And, but he was also a accounting professor, like you had mentioned, at a local college. And so as I grew up, I was like his little sidekick. We went everywhere together. We went to camp fairs, traveled all over the place to meet parents, and kids came from all over the world. And at age 12, actually, just a thought came to my mind is when I was 12 years old, my dad put me in charge of the trading post, which was an old sheep wagon where kids, when they came to camp, had to turn in their money. And he says, okay, Becky, I want to teach you about money and entrepreneurship. So 12 years old, he put me in charge. I got to buy all the supplies. I got to keep track of how much the supplies were, then how much we were going to mark it up so that we can actually make money. And so there was like camping supplies, candy, food, drinks, tents, utensils, all that kind of stuff. And this tiny little, I wish I had a picture of it, but anyway. And he put me in charge of it. And by the end of the summer, we were doing all the accounting on it. Right. And he's like, you didn't make a whole lot of money. And I was like, I didn't dare tell him I ate all the profits. Right. Like every time I would go into the trading post, I'd take all this candy, Anyway, I've struggled with my weight for years. And so that was one of the memories when I was a kid that I kind of hid and took care of. But that was one of the first experiences where I really started seeing, okay, we're going to charge this, we're going to charge that so we can make money, returning the money to them, checks when they were, things like that. But it was like that my whole life. And then I had a mom that would, even though she wasn't very entrepreneurial, she knew our family. She would sit us down when we were teenagers and say, okay, I want you to come with a problem. If you see problems in your life, bring a problem to the table and let's see if we can come up with solutions. And so every one of my family members, we're all pretty entrepreneurial minded, I should say.
Wow.
But I'm kind of the first one that's really gone on my own I've always had businesses of some sort. And when I went to college, I ended up getting a graphic design degree or an associate. And so that made it even worse because it's like I made logos every 5 minutes and of different ideas. And I call it bipolar entrepreneurship. It's like
A lot
I
of
come up with
distraction.
I come up with an idea and like 3 days later, I'm like, what am I thinking? So I have a box out in the garage with all my different ideas and stuff that I've done over the years. But now being at the ripe age that I am, the reason why I'm in the subpoenas or even in the legal field is because of a divorce that I went through. I've been divorced twice, and I'm happily married now to the third husband, and he's the last. But my first divorce wasn't very difficult. My second divorce, however, was 3.5 years in the court case. I was representing myself for most of it, up against 5 attorneys. And I went from knowing nothing about the legal system to knowing a lot about the legal system, and sometimes more than some attorneys know, just the research that I've done, and for the position that I was in. So I won my case mainly using subpoenas. And I realized that the power of the subpoena, when you're uncovering information, when you uncover the right information and do it properly, that gives you the power within the legal system to be able to prove your cases. And that's what happened. And I started seeing this niche of like, attorneys don't like to do subpoenas. So I was like, what? Like, why would you not do a subpoena? But I've now since learned that they don't teach you that in college, and they don't teach you how to properly do it. And it is very detailed work, which I'm a very detailed person. And so my husband now, we were in a court case getting ready for a trial, and he wanted me to subpoena something. And I called the attorney, who's been a 35-year attorney. And he basically, we said, look, we want to subpoena these records. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. And we were like, what? He's like, well, if you want me to do it, it's going to be $500. And my husband's like, I'm kind of like, for what? Why would it be that expensive to do a subpoena, especially since I know how to do them? And anyway, he finally agreed to do it. My husband's like, I don't care how much it is. We need to get this done because this is the information we need for the court. And 45 minutes later, so from the time that he agreed to do it, 45 minutes later, I go do my due diligence, call the paralegal back, who's been a paralegal for 18 years.
Wow.
And so she's a very experienced paralegal. And the statistic in subpoenas that I've researched is 1 out of every 3 subpoenas that gets issued gets rejected. So I called her back and she goes, no problem, Becky. I've already prepared the subpoena and sent it off to the bank within that 45 minutes. And she goes, it's already been rejected. And I said to her, very kindly, I said, did you do this, 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 and this? And she goes, how do you know? I said, well, this is what I do. I make sure that it's going to be compliant. And sure enough, I sent her the instructions. We got the subpoena paperwork back within 2 weeks. We settled 2 weeks after that. And then my husband turned to me and he says, Becky, you absolutely have to do this for attorneys. You're helping people who need the help, that need the information to win their cases. So that's kind of how Only Subpoenas was born.
Wow.
An amazing journey in this space.
Wow, you turned something, Becky, that many people can turn into failure, into a difficult process, into something traumatic, right? That you don't want to even discuss about it, and you just see the negative side of it, but you turn it into something fabulous, into something to help thousands of others all around the nation, and help those that, sometimes these subpoenas, I mean, it is still a defined moment, right? Like in your case, fighting for custody of children through a divorce, fighting for, a part of what is going to determine your life in the future. I see this a lot we work a lot with business owners, right? And sometimes we have one spouse that is the 100% shareholder of all of the businesses. and you have the other spouse that has no percentage in the business, there's no, at times, legal documentation, or one of the owners is just not sharing all the financial information.
Yep.
So yeah, the power of knowing and having more knowledge. Tell us a story, Becky, or or a success that one of your clients had through your process, or with working with you. The difference of what they were. I know you have the personal, which is very, very impactful.
Yeah.
But for the listeners out there, right, for the audience to have a little bit more understanding of subpoenas, because a lot of the people has gone through lawsuits. I mean, as business owners, you go through lawsuits constantly. It's a constant battle. But not only that, also internally, when it comes to a personalized, a divorce, right, spouse. So how does this change your mindset, and have helped, success stories? Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, let me tell you, I'm not a lawyer. I'm
Yeah.
not even a licensed paralegal. So I only do subpoenas for attorneys. So I can do them for all kinds of attorneys. However, because of my background in divorce, that's really where I'm niching right now for divorce attorneys, because I know what they're in. Also, let me just say, the other thing that came to my mind when you were talking is that a subpoena is a court order. So you do have to be in an active case in order to do a subpoena. You can't be just in business and be like, hey, I'm going to subpoena you. You know what I mean? You can't do that unless there's some kind of lawsuit already in place. Also, I don't recommend that people subpoena right out of the gate because it's a kind of more of an aggressive move. Subpoenas are really used once you've done the due diligence, you've done the discovery, or you've asked for permission for the information that you have. Then beyond that, then it's like, okay, I'm done playing the games. And one of the reasons why I'm in this business and to support people is because sometimes those discovery requests and then going to court and doing a motion to compel, and then the court says you need to give it to them, and then they don't give it to you, and then you go back to the motion to compel. It wastes a lot of the court's time. Wastes a lot of the client's time. To me, I'm like, a subpoena, you can get the information back within 2 weeks. So it's interesting. One of the attorneys that wrote, they're actually my client, but she said, now, can you handle the 2 that we've got rejected? I'm like, absolutely. Send me all the information. And it was just a lot more legwork than they were able to do. And like I always say to paralegals, just because you have a paralegal and just because you have an attorney that can do subpoenas doesn't mean that they should be doing them. Because you miss one period, or you miss one little tiny thing on the subpoena, and they're going to find anything and every reason to reject it. Then you have to start over again. Then you've wasted your time. With only subpoenas, we have 100% compliant, which means it gets accepted or my clients don't pay. So that's very different than a paralegal that spends an hour or so, an hour and a half, and you've had to pay them regardless, and then it gets rejected. Then you have to pay them again to do that. So I would say, it was funny because I had a client the other day. They're actually an attorney group. They paid me, they retained me. And then when I called to follow up with her, she goes, yeah, we thought we would do a subpoena on our own, and we did, and then we got it rejected. And I was like, she goes, would you have caught that? And I'm like, of course I would have caught that, because, I'm a little bit of an investigator, and I've picked up this nickname along the way, which is Becky Brockovich. If you've ever seen Erin Brockovich, the movie, my mom during my divorce would be like, dude, Becky, you are Becky Brockovich. Like, you knew nothing, and now you know so much. And so again, it's subpoenas can be incredibly powerful. But that's what I saw in the market is that even though these attorneys need the information, the clients need the information, they're not doing as many as they should. And when I asked one of my clients, I asked her, I said, so how many subpoenas are you doing on a yearly basis? And she's like, not enough. I'm like, that's a good answer. like, come on, let's get this moving so we can get people through the system. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, that's impressive. And you help firms all over the states, Becky, all of 50 states.
Yeah, no, all the states. So, and it's funny, I was on a podcast the other day and somebody asked me that I knew all the jurisdictional rules. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'll be honest, I don't. But when you give me a subpoena, I learn it.
Mhm.
I learn exactly what needs to be done in that jurisdiction because I do the research to make sure. I want to make sure I'm getting paid, and I want to make sure that my client's getting the
Mhm.
information. But what's interesting about growing this business, because I know you
Mhm.
work with a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Um, what's interesting about me personally growing this business, it's been so important to me and it's so much fun. I mean, to grow it the way that I want to grow it through relationships,
Mm.
and through trust and through building. It's a longer game.
Mhm.
And it's funny because my husband's like, Becky, is this going to get moving faster? And I'm like, nope, I don't, it's going exactly the way it is. Cause just even in the last 2 days, I've now, all of those seeds that I've put out there are starting to really bloom.
Wow.
And people are coming out of the woodwork going, Becky, I want you to do this and this and this, and let's partner here. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But most people give up before the miracle happens
Mm.
in businesses.
Consistency. Yeah.
Consistency is a big one. Yeah.
I Becky, through that process that you have gone through, and I think that as business owners, right, and offering services to our clients, we both have an industry specific in common, right? Our deal clients are law firm owners, and you serve to law firm owners as well,
Yeah.
to attorneys, right? So one of the things that I always tell clients is the commitment that we make with ourselves and with the goals that we want to accomplish in life. Um, when you make that commitment, you become resilient. You become
Yeah.
consistent in what you do. You develop the hunger to learn more for self growth and to become curious about doing more research. Because based on what you're saying about the subpoena world, right? It's something that I'm a paralegal. I am an associate at a firm. I've been doing this for 20, 30 years. You're not going to teach me how to practice law at this point, how to do
Yeah.
forms, right? How to do my work. We can take it from that point of view, but sometimes we just get so accustomed of doing things in certain ways that we miss out on so much more, or we don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the capacity throughout our day to invest a lot more time that is needed in certain matters. So that's the power of, I think, as business owners, making this commitment and going back to what you were saying about, planting the right seeds, making those connections as business owners. We just got to stay consistent. We just got to stay consistent. That, momentum is something that comes from that consistency, from that. I always say that impulse will give you outputs. So today is a reflection of yesterday's work. And I can see everything that you have, and I'm looking here at your website, I'm looking here at your bios, and it's just so fascinating to see your story, to see where you come from. And it is a defined point, Becky. Many people, having to go through what you have gone through in life, things could have been different now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I see that you have a group here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
You mean the gathering?
The gathering, yes.
Yeah, so I actually have not started the gathering yet. However, it is going to be something I'm putting together, because as I'm doing a lot of so my podcast is called Divorcing Strong,
Mm.
and I interview divorce attorneys and then also people that support people through divorce. And it's really navigating the legal system, because a lot of people that find themselves in divorce, and I always say I'm not for divorce, but sometimes it is necessary. And when it does happen, you need to be educated on the process so that you don't get taken advantage of. And because there's rights that we have that most people have no idea, not even what their rights are, but they don't know how to navigate them through the system in order to advocate for themselves. And so for me, the gathering is a place that I'm going to be starting here soon, is really bringing those people together so that there's a safe place for us to find support. And I usually will do some kind of training on that, and then I'll open it up for them to share where they're at, where are they at in the process? What help do they need? What support do they need? And to know that they're not alone through that. So I've actually, if I kind of step back, in 2010, when I was getting divorced the first time, I was married for 7.5 years. I had just gotten into a program for food addiction. I didn't even know that that's something that I struggled with, because I've struggled with obesity. You can see me now, and you probably don't think that's my history, but I've been obese most of my life, and I got into recovery for food addiction. So I lost 130 pounds, hit my goal weight, got divorced, and quit my job all in the same month of July 2010. And that was a huge defining moment for me in my life. And that's when I really started taking off and started doing radio. I started doing life coaching. I started doing speaking. I started seeing, but during that process of losing weight, one of the things that you just said was something I had never really experienced before I got into recovery for food addiction, was consistency. And when I had daily accountability to someone that I was working with, and every day weighing and measuring the food that went into my mouth, it taught me how to weigh and measure my thoughts, then weigh and measure my actions, then weigh and measure my interactions with people. And so that changed my life completely. And so I think the disciplines that I have now in business are a direct reflection of what I've been through and what I still do to this day, when it comes to my health. And that is the hardest part for anybody, is that consistency thing. But if we don't have systems in place, then we don't have consistency. And being an entrepreneur is just like an addict, to be honest with you. It's like shiny objects. It's like, oh, this is an idea. This is an idea. Let's do it here. And so I have, one of the quotes that I have developed over the years is, structure is the key to success. The tighter the seatbelt or the structure, the systems, the faster you're going to be able to go and have success. Because if you think of it, people that are in, race car drivers, they have to be so tightly strapped in order to go that fast. So I say to people, if you're struggling in business, if you're struggling with that consistency, you better be a part of a group or some kind of structure that gives you daily accountability. And I'll be honest, 2 days ago, I have 10 powerful women in a group that I just decided a week ago to form. And I'm like, all right, girls, we need structure. It's the new year. Let's get this done. And we're all buddied up. We all have buddies. We all have scorecards. We all have, like, I'm looking at it right now on my computer. Every single day, I am accountable. I just got off the accountability call right before I came on your show. And I return and report every single day. This is what I said I'm going to do. And this is what I did. And then I score myself. And last night, I will say, I had to push myself to get 100% on everything, because I gave myself a little out, and I'm like, nah, but my husband's like, no, Becky, you said you're going to do it. Go do it. So I was up till 9:30 finishing my tasks, but I overcommitted. But the thing is that, can we be true to ourselves? And the more we have confidence in ourselves and in our business and in our word, people are going to trust us more in business, and they're going to want us to be part of their team. But until and also let me just mention something else that you said is that we also have a hard time as entrepreneurs or business owners giving tasks to somebody else. Yeah. And I am a graphic designer. I've been a brander. I've done video editing for 30 years. And the biggest problem I'm having right now is doing all of my own production on my podcast. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I should not be doing this. Can I do it? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm capable of doing all of it. Right. I should not be doing it. Just like attorneys, just because you can do subpoenas, you shouldn't be doing them. Yeah. They're that important. And so it's trying to figure out, as a business owner, like, what can I give away and trust someone else to do? Even if it may not be perfect, it's okay. But we need to really learn how to engage a team in order to get the plane off the tarmac, so to speak.
Yeah, that's powerful, Becky. One of my mentors, you brought this memory back to me right now. This is my pastor from our church. He always said, Karen, less is more. And at
Uh-huh.
first, in my younger years, I remember this back when I was in high school. I never understood what he meant. Never. Until now that, almost 15, 17, 20 years later, I'm here like less is more. Of course, less is more. What we do as business owner, this is for law firm owners, right?
Mhm.
Adding more, I will have subpoenas being done in-house to my team. I'm going to review them before they get mailed out, or I will pre-draft them, create the systems, or do all of this in-house. Is that how you should be investing your time? Is one of the questions I always say, when we set up goals, especially right now that we're in January, are we adding more to our agenda, or are we removing
Right.
and redelegating things like, video editing or other things that we shouldn't be doing? Can we do them? Yes. Do we have the manpower to do them with that capacity? Maybe not. And that's what we have to evaluate. Is this where I should be investing my time in, or should I be outsourcing this service or delegating and bringing someone in-house? That's powerful. That is
Yeah,
powerful.
it's
Yeah.
well, and I really experienced it with myself in the last few months because I'm like, I that's and it's a blessing and a curse that I could do all of that stuff, right? The graphics, because most people, especially when you're an entrepreneur, they don't have any clue how to do any of that technical stuff.
No,
I
I
do.
don't.
It's fun, but it's like this is stopping me from being able to really connect and do what I'm very good at, which
Mm.
is, connecting and building those relationships of trust with people. I have sub agents that can do the subpoenas the proper ways. And, I've got all of that. It's just, it's a, it's a balance, right? And so when I said, yes, I can do that stuff, I should not be doing it. And that's exactly
Mhm.
what I say to the attorneys. And it's hard. I'm not going to say it's an easy thing to offload something, but once you do and you see the system work and you start trusting, because many years ago, I used to be a property manager of a large apartment complex.
Mhm.
Because in between being a graphic designer, I used to be in real estate. And I remember I hired an assistant manager, and I was up till 2 and 3 in the morning, double checking her work, fixing what she had messed up. And then at some point I got smart. I was like, look, I need to get somebody that's so detailed, that loves to do this work. So I'm not going back and micromanaging. It just killed me. And
Mm.
eventually I put somebody in there that was a complete opposite. She didn't like to talk. I'm talking to all the
Oh,
students and she's like doing all the paperwork, and she was magical. And
wow.
I just knew that when I left for work, that at that night, I didn't have to go back and double check. She was so meticulous. And it's like, that's who I want on my team, because she's caring. I'm good at certain things and she's good at things. And we were a powerful team. But if you're not willing to engage a team, it's the same reason why I couldn't lose my weight for many years, because
Mm.
I was trying to do it on my own. But when I engaged other people and support and a community and structure, and all of a sudden, bam, 130 pounds.
Wow.
I lost it and maintained it for years. I'm not saying it was easy. It hasn't been easy,
Nothing
but
is
it's that
easy.
consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency has got me to where I'm at today.
Yeah, that day to day, right? So that day to day, if we don't have that consistency, a lot of the times we set up a goal for the year, we don't set up the milestones in the weekly tasks and the daily to dos, like you were mentioning, right? Wow, it is so powerful what you have, Becky. One thing that you will leave to the audience today before we disconnect, and you say, if there's, for all of the attorneys out there, this message, it is for you. If there's one thing that you will leave to our audience today, what would that be?
I always, it's interesting because I always like to say, you don't have to be perfect to be successful. And we all are striving for, and sometimes we get tied up with the perfection within our business and within our relationships, but it really is forward movement. It's forward action. And even if some days it's harder than others, and in we struggle with whatever it is that we struggle with. It's okay. Tomorrow's a brand new day. And if you really, and it's really going back to honestly why you got into business. I thought about this morning, is that if your why is so strong, whether it is to serve your clients, whether it is to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves, I mean, whatever reason it is that you're in business and doing what you're doing, that as long as you're making those efforts on a daily basis and intentional efforts and actions and giving yourself grace when you fall short, because we all fall short. It doesn't matter. Nobody's perfect. You're going to get there. You're going to get there. And I know I can only share what's working for me, and and hope it works for them.
Wow. Impressive. Becky, how can Love Hormoners find you and connect with you if they happen to need your services?
Absolutely. So only Subpoenas with an S.com. And some people struggle with how to spell it, but SUBPOENAS. Or my personal website that goes over my coaching and stuff like that. And my web, and also my podcast is Becky Sampson with a P, SAMPSON.com. And I'm all over social media, LinkedIn, all of that fun stuff.
Beautiful. So you're easy to find digitally now. So thank you, Becky, for your time. This has been great and amazing. I hope our audience takes a lot from here, and, wishing everyone a successful start, right, in this 2026.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks for listening to The Throne of Wealth. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review to help others find the show. A special thanks to our sponsor, King of Kings Accounting Firm, dedicated to helping you build and protect wealth for generations. Until next time, take the reins of your financial future and lead with confidence.